When I had a car accident and miscarried, Silas happened to pass by with his female assistant. Seeing my white dress stained with blood, he covered the curious eyes of the female assistant and said coldly, "It's unlucky, don't look, speed away." Late that night, I found a piece of lace underwear that didn't belong to me in the corner of my bedroom closet. After closing the cabinet door, I calmly dialed the number. "Mr. Chen, I've made up my mind. I will be able to leave this city next week and join your company." "That's great, Elodie. You're welcome to join us." The next second after the phone call was hung up, Silas just walked out of the bathroom. His hair was half dry and there was a hint of moisture on his body. In the past, he only took a bath for 5 minutes. Lately, I always carry my phone with me and spend at least half an hour washing up. "Who are you talking to?" When asking me questions, Silas's eyes were still on the phone. I told him truthfully that I had just finished talking to Mr. Chen. The man just said, "Oh, I knew that." As always, he didn't hear what I said, and for the first time in my life, I didn't make any noise. "Start editing your resignation letter on your phone." When Silas picked up the cup of water but didn't get the calming tea I made for him every night, his eyes finally turned to me with arms. "Elodie, I took your CT report to the orthopedic specialist, and he said you only had some skin injuries. Just be careful not to let the wound come into contact with water." I kept typing. "Got it. This afternoon, I had 8 stitches in my calf from a car accident. Not only that, I was also diagnosed with being 4 weeks pregnant and having threatened miscarriage. The doctor expressed regret that if I had been sent to the hospital earlier, perhaps the baby could have been saved." Seeing that I looked unusually cold, Silas frowned and was about to come over to see what I was busy with. At this moment, his cell phone vibrated. The man immediately raised the corners of his mouth, turned around and walked into the study. "Silas' circle of friends with my secondary account. See a new status message visible to everyone except me. Letter of self-criticism, reviewed by Silas. I shouldn't have gone back on my word to the cutest little assistant in the universe. I agreed to get off work on time and take my assistant out for a big meal. However, due to her busy work, she was hungry for a full 10 minutes. I was totally wrong. From now on I will change my ways and be a good boss." After I clicked the like button, I received the contract from Mr. Chen. I clicked on the contract link and signed it without hesitation. The next morning, Silas got up early and bought soup dumplings from a famous old shop. Just as I was about to open the insulated bag of crab soup, the man slapped my hand until it turned red. "Don't you like dumplings? I bought these shrimp dumplings especially for you." I was stunned for a moment, and soon realized that the crab roe soup dumplings were bought for Maeve. I couldn't help but ask Silas, "I've been dating you for 7 years. Don't you know I'm allergic to shrimp?" Silas's expression changed slightly. He stood up suddenly and said coldly, "Look for trouble when there is nothing to do. Eat if you want." Seeing Silas was about to go out, I walked into the room and took out a bag. "When you see Maeve later, please return this to her for me." Silas saw the lace underwear inside. Surprise flashed in his eyes. He opened his mouth, as if he wanted to explain something, but seeing that I had no intention of arguing with him, he just said, "I'll tell Maeve to stop losing things like that in the future." Seeing that I was in a bad mood, Silas offered to take me to work today. "We have been in love for 7 years, even in the storm." As his boss, he clearly distinguishes between public and private affairs and has never given me a ride to and from get off work. On Maeve's first day at work, she began to enjoy his car pickup and drop off. Think of this. I knocked the chopsticks to the ground and tried to pick them up with trembling fingertips. When I straightened up, Silas had already walked out of the entrance. Without even turning his head, he said, "There's something urgent at the company. I'll take you next time." Then he left in a hurry. Half an hour later, I limped to my workstation. For some reason, most of my colleagues looked at me with sympathy. When I went to the tea room to get some water, I heard 2 colleagues whispering, "So, Mr. Shu really abandoned Elodie and got together with that Maeve. Of course you didn't see it this morning. Maeve just got her period and stained her skirt a little." President Shu carried her like a princess into the top-floor office in front of all the executives in the conference room. The mug in his hand slipped and broke. The gossip in the tea room came to an abrupt end. I squatted on the ground, silently picked up the broken pieces of the cup, and threw them all into the trash can. Work overtime until 10 o'clock at night. My shoulders suddenly felt heavy. It was Silas who put the suit jacket on me. Elodie, why didn't you reply to my message? I didn't look back, I just turned on my phone and took a look at the unread messages. What flavor of milk tea do you girls generally like to drink? 3 years ago, I couldn't help but ask Silas for the first cup of milk tea in autumn. At that time, Silas looked at me with disdain. Elodie, you are an old woman who is almost 30 years old, don't disgust me with such nonsense. But at this moment, Silas took the initiative to bring a cup of milk tea. Seeing that I didn't touch the milk tea, he continued working. Silas' eyes showed strange colors. Didn't you ask for this before? I casually said. It's too late. Drinking will cause insomnia. Silence. The man said coldly, I'm going to the bathroom, and then we'll go home together. Half a minute later, Silas's phone, which was placed on my workstation, lit up. It's Mavis' message. Brother Yoon Jing, you are such an idiot Tilda who can send dozens of cups of milk tea at one time. Brother, don't you really want to turn Yaya into a stupid pig? Trembling Tilda, I got home around 11 o'clock. I went into the bedroom and started to gather my personal belongings. Silas entered the bedroom after taking a shower. He found that the things on the dressing table were significantly reduced. He frowned. Elodie, I'm going to Paris on a business trip next month. If you have anything you want to buy, make a list for me. I replied without hesitation. Don't bother, I don't need anything. Anyway, I'll be leaving in a few days. Why bother? Throwing the towel onto the bed, Silas looked at me coldly. Just because I bought you breakfast that doesn't suit your taste, you're still mad at me, right? I was just about to explain that I wasn't angry. The man sneered. You know I hate pretentious women. Elodie, you've crossed the line. Entering the study, Silas slammed the door shut. After 7 years of dating, Silas initiated the Cold War countless times, and I humbly begged for peace countless times, but this time, I really don't care. Silas stayed in the study all night and didn't hear a knock on the door. The next morning, I made breakfast for 2 as usual. Just as I finished my portion and was getting ready for work, Silas walked out of the study with a cold face. He held up his phone and ordered me in an irritable tone. Elodie, I'll give you a day off. Make me an identical fondant cake before 5 p.m. Silas and I started dating. I have made his birthday cake every year. I've seen the cartoon patterns on his phone. This is Mavis' WeChat profile picture. The living room fell silent. When Silas realized belatedly that he had proposed an unreasonable task, I nodded. Send me the pictures. I'm going out to buy the materials now. Silas hadn't been there at that dinner 7 years ago. As a newcomer to the workplace, I am determined not to get out of this unscathed. After making this cake, I really don't owe him anything. Looking at my lonely back as I walked towards the door, Silas called me in a daze. I didn't look back. I just asked, any other instructions? I'll transfer the money for buying materials to you. Take the elevator and open the dialogue box with Silas. I found it amusing that I had sent him a total of 363 messages, and he replied to me, 25 messages. In the living room, I heard a notification sound that the transfer of 100,000 yuan had been returned. Silas couldn't help but clench his phone. At 8 o'clock that evening, I received a call from Silas. Elodie, where are you? I was eating at a noodle shop near my home, so I didn't answer him directly, but just asked, what's up? The man spoke softly. It's okay. I just wanted to tell you that the cake you made is as delicious as always. After a pause, he added in a low voice, thanks for your hard work. Before I could reply, Maeve's sweet voice rang out, Sister Elodie. I heard from Brother Yunjing that you made my birthday cake today. Is that true? Oh my God, sister, you are so awesome. Unlike me, I am clumsy and always get called a little fool by Brother Yunjing. Maeve invited me to her birthday party. Silas' voice appeared again. Elodie, you don't have to come over. After saying that, the man hung up the phone. However, within a few minutes, he sent his location and a message. When you come over, bring Maeve a bag of tomato chips from a nearby convenience store. When I opened the door of the box, Silas was feeding Maeve cake. When the man saw me appear, his eyes were filled with displeasure. I know that the location and text messages were sent by Maeve, but I still came. Hearing Maeve calling me sister-in-law with a sweet smile, Silas glared at me coldly. Didn't I tell you not to come? I'm sorry, Brother Yunjing. I just wanted to eat potato chips, so I tricked Sister Elodie into coming here. Maeve looked aggrieved. Silas rubbed her hair lovingly and called her a greedy little cat in a low voice. Realizing that the man was in a good mood, I immediately took out my resignation letter. Mr. Shu, a colleague has something to do at home and needs to leave urgently. Please approve it. In theory, the resignation application should be approved and processed by the company's Human Resources Department. But after seeing that the applicant was me, the HR manager directly returned the form. The lights in the box were dim, and Silas, who was busy flirting with Maeve, did as I wished, without even glancing at the name on the form, and signed it directly. However, when I was about to take the form back, the man suddenly held my hand. He asked me thoughtfully, Elodie, is this what you came here for? Seeing me nod, Silas's face turned a little gloomy. In less than 2 seconds, he let go of me quickly as if he had been electrocuted. I guess it must have touched the blisters on my hands from boiling sugar. Feeling sick, at this point, Maeve seemed to have discovered something interesting and said to me, Sister Elodie, the red string on your wrist looks so familiar. Oh, now I remember. I saw the same one in my trash can a few days ago. Pretending not to notice Silas covering his wrist, I replied calmly, this kind of red rope is very common, if you like it. I can give you the one I have. Maeve didn't want it. When I walked out of the box, the first thing I did was to find the trash can and throw away the red rope I had been wearing for 7 years. While I was waiting for the elevator, I received a call from my mother. She asked me if I had booked my ticket home. I said, I'll order it in a few days. As soon as I finished speaking, I heard Silas's puzzled voice behind me. What do you want to order? After hanging up the phone, I lied without changing my expression. There is a restaurant that is very popular and needs to be booked in advance. Hearing this, Silas said nothing more. He just took me to a nearby hotel and booked a suite. Start handling urgent business with your laptop. We worked together until the early morning, and while waiting for feedback from overseas customers, I couldn't hold on any longer and fell asleep. When I woke up the next day, I found myself lying in bed. Silas leaned against the bed and read the Financial Daily. Seeing that I woke up, he asked the waiter to bring breakfast. Halfway through breakfast, the man suddenly asked me why I changed my phone password. If you want to change it, just change it. The original password was the combination of his and my birthday. Now that we have decided to separate, it is naturally impossible to use it forever. Silas put down his knife and fork. Elodie, didn't you keep asking me to go to the movies with you? There's a movie theater nearby. My boss took the lead in skipping work, and I had no right to refuse. In a quiet and deserted movie theater, I snuggled up to my boyfriend and watched a comedy with popcorn in my hands. This sweet scene that I once longed for has been perfectly realized at this moment. But I was not interested and kept yawning. Noticing my distraction, Silas frowned. You picked this movie. What, you don't like it? No, it's pretty nice. Hearing my perfunctory response, the man pursed his thin lips and seemed to have something to say. At this moment, his mobile phone received a message. For this reason, he walked out without saying hello. Silas didn't come back until the movie was over. Just as I was about to call him, I heard a familiar sweet female voice not far away. Brother Yun Zheng, you are so awesome. Maeve, who received a huge doll, jumping onto Silas with excitement and laughing, and giving the man a kiss on the cheek. Silas held Maeve's thigh, and the smile in his eyes disappeared instantly when he saw me. Sister Elodie, you are here too. Maeve looked at me in surprise. After a few seconds, she let out a shy scream and stepped back from Silas, covering her face. Sister Elodie, please don't misunderstand me. It's all because I was too excited just now. So, Silas gently scratched Maeve's nose and said to her in a doting tone, there is nothing to apologize for. Then he looked at me and said calmly, the movie is over so soon. Before I could say anything, a shrill fire alarm suddenly sounded in the mall. The crowd scattered in terror. Before I could react, Silas had already taken Maeve's hand and was escorting her towards the emergency exit. 5 minutes later, The alarm that was triggered by human error was lifted. Silas returned to his original position. I looked around for a long time, but I couldn't see myself. 2 hours later, after completing the resignation procedures, I appeared at the high-speed railway station dragging my suitcase. While I was waiting for the bus, my cell phone kept ringing for no apparent reason. The caller ID was Silas. I was too lazy to answer the call, so I just muted it. The moment before boarding the train, I sent Silas a message, "Let's break up." After sending the message, I pulled out the SM card and threw it into the trash can. Arrived at my hometown station near midnight. As soon as I walked out of the ticket gate, I saw my father, who had been waiting for a long time. When I got into my father's car, I saw a big bag of my favorite yogurt snack on the passenger seat. Before driving, my father happily put a straw in the yogurt and put it in my hand. Seeing my father's graying temples, I finally couldn't help myself and burst into tears. "Dad, now that I'm back, I'll never leave. I want to stay with you and Mom for the rest of my life." "Silly girl, whether you are with me and your mother or not, you are our most precious Ranran." My father saw that I was in a bad mood, but since I didn't take the initiative to talk about it, he didn't ask anything. "Go home, take a shower, and eat a home-cooked meal made by my parents." I went to bed at 10 o'clock in the evening, opened the music software, and wanted to listen to some soothing music to help me sleep. But I unexpectedly saw several private messages. The person who sent the private message is the female colleague with whom I have the best relationship in the company. Surprised at my sudden resignation, she asked me sincerely, "Did something happen? Is there anything she can do to help?" Just as I was thinking about how to reply, a female colleague sent me a video. She said, "Sister Ran, this video of Mr. Shu and Maeve has gone viral in the work group." After hesitating for a moment, I finally clicked on the video. It is obvious at first glance that the video footage was captured from the surveillance video of the company's conference room. There were only 3 people in the meeting room: Silas, Maeve, and the HR manager. Although the surveillance video did not record any sound, I recognized the piece of paper Silas was holding in his hand. That's the resignation application form I just submitted this afternoon. At the beginning of the video, the male manager of the Human Resources Department was so nervous and frightened that he looked like he was about to cry. He kept bowing and explaining something. Silas, however, kept his eyes downcast and stared at the resignation letter in his hand, without even looking at him. Silas, who had been sitting in the same position, waved his hand casually, and the HR manager bent down and left as if he had been pardoned. Standing behind the man, Maeve, who had always had a grim expression on her face, forced out a sweet smile. Just as he was about to touch Silas' shoulder, he was frightened by the man who suddenly swung his arm and swept the scalding coffee next to him to the ground, causing him to step back several steps. The coffee splashed on his face and clothes, but the man stood up nonchalantly, pacing back and forth with a smile on his face. It was not until his cell phone seemed to have received some message that he stopped in surprise and quickly picked it up to check. That message should be long, otherwise the man wouldn't stand there motionless for several minutes. Seeing the man putting down his phone with a cold expression, Maeve hugged the man's waist from behind and was about to speak, but was frightened by the man's sudden and furious action of smashing the phone at the electronic screen in the middle of the conference room, causing her to sprain her ankle and fall. The electronic screen was smashed into pieces, with electric light splashing everywhere. Maeve was pale and sobbing. Silas turned and walked towards. The video stops abruptly here. In fact, I don't need to read on to know that Silas will definitely help Maeve. Then he apologized to her softly. Feeling guilty about it, he pampered her even more and obeyed her. After exiting the video interface, I sent a blessing message to my female colleague. Although we won't be able to work side by side together in the future, I still hope that she can move up in career and have a bright future. 4th day back home, with the care and love of my parents, I looked so radiant that I went to meet up with my 2 best friends from high school. These 2 people kept asking me which beauty salon I went to for the beauty injections. After joking around for a while, my cell phone rang. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Thinking that it was only 2 days since I got the new number, this was most likely a boring sales call. so I turned off the screen without paying any attention. Not long after I returned home that evening, the doorbell rang. I ordered takeaway milk tea and opened the door without thinking. It's a real gift. I saw clearly that the person standing outside the door was Silas. The smile on my face disappeared in an instant. I don't know how he found out where my parents live. All I knew was that I never wanted to see him again. Realizing that I wanted to close the door immediately, Silas' eyes darkened, and he stretched out his hand without hesitation, risking his fingers being pinched, and blocked the gap in the door tightly. He asked me in a hoarse voice, "Elodie, why didn't you answer my call?" At this moment, although my mind is a little confused, it does not affect my verbal expression ability. Silas heard me say word by word, "We have broken up. Please leave immediately." Hearing the word break up, Silas seemed to have heard a huge joke, and sneered as he tightened his grip on the door panel. "Break up? When did we break up? How come I didn't know?" When I heard this, my first reaction was that the text message was not sent successfully. But if you think about it a little bit, you will know that it is impossible. Besides, even if the text message was not sent successfully, I heard the news that I resigned. As smart as Silas is, he would know what this means. Since everything is so obvious, why did he have the audacity to come to me? I didn't ask the question in my mind. He just looked at the uninvited guest outside the door with an indifferent face, and said with his remaining temper, "If you really don't know, then I'm going to tell you right now, Silas, I'm breaking up with you." Did you hear what I said? If you are really hard of hearing, I don't mind repeating it to you again. No matter how many times you repeat yourself, I will always have the same answer. The man gritted his teeth secretly and looked at me with a cold expression. "Elodie, I don't agree with your breakup. I clearly did nothing wrong. Why do you want to break up with me?" Silas in shock. I never thought a person could be so shameless. Just as I was stunned, I heard my father's curious voice from the kitchen not far away. Ran, who are you talking to standing at the gate?" "Dad, we're not chatting. The milk tea I ordered has arrived. Oh, by the way, I suddenly remembered that I forgot to pick up a package, so I'll go downstairs now." Silas away from the door without mercy. I walked out of the house with a blank expression, got on the elevator by myself, and said to him coldly, "Don't disturb my parents. Let's talk outside if you have anything to say." Silas and I sat face to face in a corner of a Western restaurant near my home. He was the first to speak. "You cut your hair." Seeing that I was still silent, the usually cold and taciturn man praised me for the first time in a flattering tone. "You look great with your new haircut. It suits you very well." Silas likes women with long flowing hair. In order to cater to his aesthetic taste, I, who am naturally afraid of heat, kept my long, straight black hair down to my waist for 7 years. But during these 7 years, he never once did what he had casually promised me and personally braided my favorite long braid. At this time, the waiter brought the menu. Before I could say anything, the man had already ordered dinner for 2. He said to me, "Elodie, you've lost weight. Eat something first. When we get home tomorrow, I'll take you to a really good restaurant." I was really amused by him. "What home are you going back to, Silas? Have you forgotten that you and I are just in a relationship and we are not married at all?" Hearing what I said, Silas smiled as if he saw through everything. "Elodie, we've been together for 7 years. If you want to marry me, you can just tell me directly. Would I disagree? There's really no need for you to waste each other's time and go through all this." He pinched his cold brows. I opened my phone, pulled out my employment contract for a rival company, and clearly placed it on the desk for him to review. As I expected, the man only took a look at the content on my phone, and his handsome face suddenly turned pale. Silas hates betrayal the most in his life. Whether it's work or private life, he can be unfaithful once and never again. I folded my arms and said calmly, "Mr. Shu, I know you have a strong sense of self-esteem. Even if you have no feelings for me, it would be hard for you to accept the word breakup coming out of my mouth. In that case, I will give you the opportunity to break up with me now, and from now on, no matter who asks me, I will say that you dumped me. Are you satisfied with this?" Time passes by every second. I'm too lazy to keep wasting time waiting for a reply. Seeing me preparing to leave, the anger on Silas's face immediately turned into panic that was difficult to conceal. after 7 years of dating, he spoke to me in an apologetic tone for the first time. "Elodie, don't leave yet. I know that I have been too busy with work and neglected you in the past few years, so you did such a stupid thing. It's okay, I won't blame you, it's just a penalty. As long as you promise to go back with me tomorrow morning, I'll pretend nothing happened. Ran, I really miss the meals you cook." Speaking of the meals I cook, I remember one weekday morning 2 months ago, Silas suddenly sent me a message asking me to make some pork ribs with preserved plum sauce. That day, I was experiencing menstrual cramps. I rode my bike to the nearest farmer's market under the scorching sun, bought the freshest spare ribs, and returned home with pale lips. I race against time to prepare a nutritionally balanced pork ribs lunchbox before the lunch break. When I arrived at the door of the top-floor office with cold sweat on my forehead and weak legs, Silas just came out with Maeve. Seeing the lunchbox in my hand, Maeve was overjoyed and snatched it away, saying sweetly, "Thank you for your hard work, Sister Elodie. My little one likes the plum pork ribs you make the most. The second favorite is the braised pork chops. Xiaoguai is Maeve's pet dog in the company." Seeing Maeve feeding the lunchbox to the dog in front of me, Silas just said to me, "Maeve and I are going out to eat. When Xiaoguai finishes eating, remember to clean up." Recalling this, I looked the man straight in the eye and spoke clearly and calmly. "Silas, I'm not going back with you. Where my parents are is my real home. Besides, there is no way I can marry you, because I don't love you anymore." Silas was obviously stunned for a moment, then laughed in anger. "You don't love me anymore? It's been less than a week since we broke up and you're telling me you've let go of your feelings for me? Elodie, don't you think what you said is ridiculous?" I looked at him with disdain, without flinching. "Silas, you are the one who is really ridiculous. You are obviously fed up with me and think I am dispensable. You obviously have a fondness for Maeve and like her so much that you want to give her the best things in the world. Why don't you just admit that you did cheat on her and fell in love with her? You think it's fun to deceive yourself and play 2 games at the same time, and then waste my youth day after day. After being in love for many years, Silas has become accustomed to my tenderness, thoughtfulness, and obedience." He faced me with all the reasons and was more aggressive than ever before. The man's face turned from red to blue, and then became very pale, until all the ordered dishes are served and become cold. Silas spoke in a hoarse voice, unable to hide his frustration. "Elodie, you misunderstood me. I really didn't cheat. There's something I never told you. I once had a sister who died unexpectedly. Her name is Xu Xinyu. The first time I heard Maeve call me brother, I seemed to have a hallucination that Xinyu was still alive. That's why I want to try my best to fulfill all of Maeve's wishes. I know you must think I am making up excuses, but I swear I am not lying to you. In order to prove that Xu did exist." Silas took out the only photo of him and his sister that he had kept in a hidden compartment of his wallet. Facing the man's serious explanation, I just lowered my eyes to check the time on my phone and said calmly, "What you think of Maeve is your own business, Silas. I would break up with you regardless of Maeve or without her." Having said this, I stood up and took just 2 steps when Silas grabbed my wrist. He said, "Elodie, we have been together for 7 years. Do you remember what you whispered to me in my ear the night we were together? You said that you like me so much and you will always like me. You said that as long as we hold hands for 1 more day, your love for me will grow a little more." Facing the man's panicked eyes, I tore off his fingers one by one. "Silas, let alone 7 years, even if we've been together for 70 years, I can still dump you like I did today without any psychological burden. From now on, you'd better not take women's casual words of love seriously. Hear my last words." Silas's hand finally dropped, ignoring the trembling and bitterness in his heart. Silas curled his lips at me with red eyes. "Elodie, don't worry, you are not as important as you think." After saying that, he bought the fastest flight right in front of me and walked out of the restaurant before me. Watching the man's disappearing back, I breathed a sigh of relief from the inside out. Time quickly came to Monday. I officially joined the new company and started a new work and life. Those losses and disappointments that we thought would be difficult to let go of in a lifetime were quickly and quietly smoothed out and forgotten under the healing power of time, family affection, and friendship. If I have to nitpick something wrong with my current life, it would be that I've been so busy lately that I've been suffering from a bit of nervous breakdown. Occasionally, you'd have the inexplicable illusion that someone was watching you in the dark. It was an ordinary weekend night more than a month later. I went to the KTV box as invited and had fun with my besties and the relatives and friends they brought with them. After everyone had fun for a while, I, who was not very drunk, took the initiative to go to the supermarket at the front desk to get some food for everyone. I didn't expect Chengzhe to follow me out. He is the cousin of my best friend Chengyun. When I was in high school, I often went to Chengyun's house to do homework. Chengzhe lived next door at the time. For a period of time, I even gave him free tutoring in junior high school math. Before I could say anything, the handsome and tall young man spoke. I heard that you will not leave again after you come back this time. I blinked and poked his forehead lightly like I did when I was a teenager. No, why haven't you called me sister since I came back? Be careful or I'll go to your parents' house and complain about you next time. Hearing this, Chengzhe must have recalled some interesting past events. He lowered his head and smiled, staring at me with burning eyes. Elodie, you. Before he could finish his words, I felt a pain in my wrist, and suddenly I was dragged backwards by a strong force. However, I didn't really fall, but fell into the chest of a man who was once most familiar to me. Silas, why are you here? According to the normal schedule, the man should be taking Maeve to romantic Paris at this time. Enjoying the happiness and sweetness brought by a publicly funded love relationship, faced with my surprised question, Silas still looked at me expressionlessly. Elodie, I've given you a full month. No matter how angry you were with me before, you should have calmed down by now. After saying this, Silas glanced coldly at Chengzhe with an attitude of superiority and sovereignty. Just before I was about to call him a psycho, Maeve showed up. She held 2 ice cream cones in her hands. She rolled her eyes at me in a sarcastic way, where Silas couldn't see her. Then she forced out a fake sweet smile and said to me, Sister Elodie, Brother Yunjing has been hiring a private detective to protect you for more than a month. He really can't live without you. Sister, you are a generous person. Eat this ice cream cone and forgive Brother Yunjing and Yeye for their unintentional mistakes in the past. Okay, there was a moment of silence. I smiled at Silas. Let me go first. And let's find a quiet place to talk. Hearing this, Silas' eyes flashed with joy and he immediately loosened the shackles on me. However, the next second, I made a move that was beyond everyone's expectations. I snatched the cone from her and rudely hit that slutty face. Maeve's sharp scream attracted everyone's attention. Seeing Maeve with an ice cream cone on her head and another ice cream cone in her left eye, and screaming in a funny way. Several onlookers couldn't help but laugh out loud. That's not all. I brushed off the ice cream crumbs on my hands. I was always called to school by my parents for fighting when I was young. With an indifferent expression, I quickly grabbed Maeve's long hair as she wanted to throw herself into Silas' arms to seek comfort. Maeve, did you just have an eye cramp? Who are you rolling your eyes at? I didn't even give Maeve a chance to reply. In her stunned and terrified eyes, I attacked with my forehand and backhand. He slapped her hard 5 or 6 times. Maeve's cheeks were swollen and her nose was bleeding after I slapped her. At this moment, her crying finally changed from fake to real, and it became hoarse and unpleasant. I looked disgusted and pushed her directly to where Silas was standing like throwing away garbage. What's funny is that Silas not only didn't reach out to catch Maeve, but when Maeve cried and crawled towards him, and was about to touch the corner of his pants, he frowned and took a big step back. Maeve was completely stunned. She opened her tearful eyes wide, shocked and heartbroken that Silas didn't even look at her, but walked straight towards me, expressing his loyalty to me with sincere eyes. Elodie, I've made it clear to Maeve that I've always only ever treated her as a sister. Those inappropriate physical contacts that made you angry in the past will never happen again. Silas pretended to hug me. But before I could make any move, Chengzhe had already protected me firmly behind him with a cold face, and said to Silas with disdain, Don't touch Elodie before she agrees. Before Chengzhe finished speaking, Silas' face darkened, and without saying a word, he angrily swung his fist, which had been suppressed for a long time, at the young man, Who do you think you are to get involved in what's going on between me and my girlfriend? The young man was hit hard by the punch, and veins on his forehead bulged instantly. However, fists and feet have no eyes, and in order not to hurt me standing behind him, Chengzhe just sneered and rubbed the painful corner of his mouth with the back of his hand. Chengzhe can tolerate it, but I can't. In front of everyone, I stood up and slapped Silas. Then he looked at him with disgust. Silas, if you are sick, go to a mental hospital and get treated instead of being crazy here and annoying others. The force of the slap wasn't that great, but Silas seemed to have turned into a statue, standing there motionless. He really didn't understand. After 7 years of living together day and night, how could someone say they could let go and really let go? Did I never love him at all? How is this possible? Whether it is friends, colleagues, or childhood friends and relatives. Everyone who has seen me and him together would say with envy that Elodie really loves Silas. Even he himself believed from the bottom of his heart that as long as he didn't mention breaking up, I would stay with him forever. He used to be so fearless, in a trance. Silas heard me ask Chengzhe with concern if his face was okay. Out of my peripheral vision, I saw Chengzhe pinching my palm with concern and asking me if it hurt. Silas clenched his fists tightly, his eyes bloodshot, and roared at me in intolerance. Elodie, I'm the man you've loved for 7 years. How could you do this to me for an outsider? I was really amused when I heard this. Silas, how many times do I have to tell you that Elodie, don't want you anymore? Seeing me holding Chengzhe's hand and pretending to leave, Silas couldn't control the tears in his eyes anymore and flowed down. Elodie, Silas shouted my name heartbreakingly, and the force he used to hold my wrist was so light that I had a ridiculous illusion that he treated me like a treasure. Our eyes met. I had never seen such a distraught expression on Silas's face. He looked at my profile with extreme humility. I apologize, Elodie, for hitting your friend. I'm sorry. Elodie, I'm really sorry. You can hit me and scold me all you want. I don't mean to upset you. I just want you to know that I really don't love Maeve. When the man said this, Maeve, with swollen eyes and face, crawled to his feet in disbelief. Just as she was about to cry out, Silas crushed the woman's face to the ground and kicked her away mercilessly. Elodie, I'm going to fire Maeve right now, or I'm going to make her disappear forever. Okay, I promise you. I will never hire any female assistants again. I will definitely. With a deep sigh in my heart, I interrupted Silas and said, you don't have to tell me this, I really don't care. Silas was stunned for half a second, then shook his head slightly, his tone trembling unconsciously. Elodie, you care about me. I know you are just disappointed with what I did in the past, but now I know what I did wrong. As long as you are willing to give me a chance, I will really change. Silas, I'm going to say this one last time, I'm done with you. Having said this, I took Chengzhe back to the box. As if nothing had happened, the music continued and the dancing continued. One late night 2 months later, I unexpectedly received a call from Silas from an unfamiliar number. The man smiled and asked me straight away if he and I had ever had a child. It was obvious from the man's tone that he was very drunk. In addition, there were some less obvious whirring noises coming from the phone. I thought he must have seen the hospital records that I didn't take away. There is nothing to hide about this matter, so I not only admitted it generously, but also smiled and congratulated him sincerely. It's a good thing the child is gone. Silas, don't you always hate being restrained? There was a long silence. Beep, beep. The man hung up the phone. Until the end of the year, I just learned from a female colleague I used to work with that Silas had a drunk driving accident and became a vegetable. However, Shu's parents were very rich, and even though the chance of their son waking up was too slim, they still did not give up on treatment. Ran. What's wrong? What shocking gossip did my sister send you again? In a high-end restaurant, Chengzhe came out of the bathroom and saw me staring at my phone with my head down, looking a little weird and dazed, so he asked casually, putting down the phone. I smiled indifferently. Nothing. By the way, don't book this restaurant again, it's expensive and the food is not good. Next time we should go eat hot pot. Chengzhe held my cold fingers, put them to his lips and kissed them. Okay. I'll do as you say. When we walked out of the restaurant, the first snow of this year happened to fall. Chengzhe was afraid that I was cold, So he put his coat on me and once again stood under the street light with flowers in his hand to confess his love to me. The young man's nose turned red and he said a little embarrassedly, "It is said that as long as you confess your love on the day of the first snow, you can be together forever. Although I don't believe in forever." I still accepted the flowers with a smile, threw myself into his warm embrace, and said to him, "Okay, the moment of happiness is always fleeting. The only thing I can do is not worry about the future and enjoy the present. As long as this moment is happy and free, that is enough."